So we've heard of diversity over the years, inclusion over the years, but what does intersectionality actually mean? I think for myself, I've got sort of two areas. So one of them is that council does write a number of action plans or strategies and things like that, and council say to me, put a gender lens over this piece of work, but then they provide it to the disability officer and put a disability lens, and rather than doing them all separately, can't we make an intersectional lens? So that's what I'd love to get from doing this training.
The workshop is really intense because I'm really rethinking everything that I knew. Sort of, I had that traditional think of, us and them, and when you're thinking about them, you sort of put them into little boxes saying, okay, these kind of groups of women face more violence, so Aboriginal or called women or anything, and then it's always been sort of that mine and them, but you're sort of getting rid of those boxes because you can't really put them into boxes. So I'm going to have to take a step back and just sort of reevaluate how all of that really plays out, or sort of, I guess, questioning some of my judgment as well, or my assumptions around some of those things that I thought I knew.
Because we're still working on our strategy for social inclusion, that it would be really good to be able to embed that sense of intersectionality into those written documents. That would be great if we could find a way to do that.
It's very complex, and I think when you start thinking about it in the sort of abstract way, it can feel overwhelming.
So many learnings, but I guess one of the key ones that were sort of takeaway aha moments for me were really around the idea of examining your own privilege. So not just that you're privileged, but actually in what ways are you privileged and in what ways are you not privileged, and really thinking about that and the ideas of the intersecting roads. So it's one of the key things of me taking into my work. Another thing is around the idea that intersectionality is not about all the different forms of discrimination that compound and make something really awful for one person. It's about how they experience things differently because of those different identities. So that would be my other main takeaway.
I guess in terms of what it is, for me, some of the core things are about making sure that we centre it on lived experience. So the people that, so when we're doing, again, the context we're working with is gender equality work. So when we're doing gender equality work, again, thinking within that area of practice, the different women, the different experiences that different women have, and what are the areas of discrimination and inequality that might make some women have less of a voice than others, and how do we address that in doing this work and make sure that everyone's voice is included.
Yeah, I think for me a real takeaway or learning is to have the lived experiences as the center of intersectionality and primary prevention as a community of practice. If you get more people on board who have these lived experiences, then I think it increases the knowledge base of others in that group or in the project or in the workplace. So for me, 100% it's lived experiences being the center of or the focus.
I think, because I sit in the community development team at council, so we've got someone that looks after disability, someone that looks after multicultural, and I look after gender equity. So firstly taking it back and seeing how we can collaborate further on different projects rather than always working in silos.
Starting with what the work is that you're trying to do, and just asking yourself in that planning stage, or if you're past the planning stage, bringing it back and reflecting on it, is are the goals that I'm working for here reflective of the diverse women that might be affected by that issue, or who might experience that, or might be in that community that you're trying to do something about. So I think that's the starting point, starting with that.
Well, I think it is around, for me, because I may not have all of those relationships that I need to do this work well. It's developing up in time those relationships and putting the effort into that. Doing that around meaningful activities, so not doing it in tokenistic ways, but actually creating relationships that have meaning and a purpose for future work. So it's like building on.
I think, yeah, it's acknowledging that you don't know everything, that you definitely need to learn from others in this space as well as through the theory, but also listening to others' experiences in the room as well. And yeah, I think you're never going to get this right, but if you can focus on one thing and try and get it to as well as you can, and that's the main thing.
It's not about us doing things to them and teaching them how to do stuff. It's actually us learning about what respect and equality means for those different faiths, and helping us to have a better way of communicating and understanding around different approaches.
When you're trying to be intersectional, you can't include the number of different areas of discrimination and inequality that you could bring into that is almost endless, and you don't know whose voices to be bringing in. But when you have an area of action, you can plan that. You can think about, okay, we're doing gender equality work in this setting, and these are the other types of intersecting issues and discrimination or inequalities that we are likely to be working with, and how do we get those voices?
I think in terms of preventing violence against women, it's really about how often we talk about domestic violence and harassment that women experience on the street, but we don't often identify that a lot of the racism that some women experience, or ableism, that's actually sexism as well. That's a form of violence against women. So for me, it's really expanded what we're talking about and what we're really trying to change at a societal level in terms of, preventing violence against women or stopping violence against women. It's about, we really have to include racism, ableism, ethnocentrism, all of the isms in that, or we're never going to achieve the equality.